Welcome to Five Rings Daily. It's day 10. I don't know what day of the week, what year. All I know is day 10 just wrapped up a few minutes ago with great performances by Canada, especially in the bobsled. We'll probably talk about it in our medals, but that was fun to see a tie for a gold medal, Duane.
No, for sure. It's the second time it's happened. 20 years ago at the Naganos games, same thing. Canadian was involved in that time with the Italian sled, and they were 1-2 exact dead heat. Begs the question why they don't just run another run, but I guess, why not? They seemed all very happy at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Group hug, and they called it the golden group hug, and it was a golden group hug. But before we move on to our medals for day 10, Duane, I wanted to talk to you a bit about curling. I've watched maybe more curling than I ever watched before. Really getting into the curling tournament this year. Maybe because it's a bit closer than we expected. Maybe because Canada's struggling. And it's not because Canada's fun to watch, because, well, their play is fun to watch, but no offense to Kevin Coey, but it's kind of boring to watch. Like, there's not a lot of excitement, no high five. But anyways, my point is the games are interesting tactically, how to play them, different ways of playing. And watching Canada-United States early on day 10, I was kind of surprised by Schuster's strategies and how he likes to crowd the rings and to use it and to have a few great shots here and there, made points. And in end number 10, turns out he got the win. And I was quite impressed by the play of the United States, but I've been impressed by this tournament. It seems it's not just a washout and you get a good worth for that medal. I don't know if you understand, but it seems like it's going to be hard just to reach the podium in the knockout stage because everyone's so close.
No, for sure. And the women's side is also close as well. But yeah, absolutely. It's been a very parity, I guess, is the name of the game here, and that's par for course. We talk about the depth of the curling program in Canada, and there's no doubt that it certainly does have a lot of depth to talk about. And there are probably, hyperbole aside, there's probably 10 to 15 rinks in Canada that could compete for an Olympic gold medal. But that doesn't mean that there's 10 to 15 gold medal locks, right? Like there are other rinks around the world that also can compete for that gold medal. There's just not as many of them, depth-wise. But that doesn't matter in an Olympic tournament. An Olympic tournament is just about the teams that are there, and absolutely we are seeing, a big pushback against the Canadian team. Now, it'd be very surprising if neither of these rinks emerged on top. They would be the first time. There's never been, in the women's side of things, there's never been an Olympics where Canada didn't medal. That looked like a difficult challenge a couple days ago, maybe a little less now. I might talk about that later. But certainly that this is a very interesting Romspiel, which led off with that mix, which is funny going in, because going in, everyone thought that the challenging one for Canada would be the mix because of their lack of experience, when it turns out that they just rolled over. That was the dominant type of performance we're used to in that particular case, whereas these rinks, which are both, well, I shouldn't say that the Coe's rink is inexperienced at the Olympic level, because there are two members of the 2010 gold medal team on that rank, the third and the second, but Coe's never been in an Olympics, and the skip calling does matter with the last rocks calling, and obviously Rachel Holman's, her entire rank is both young for world-class curlers. They're still, they're no longer as young as they were a few years ago, obviously, like all of us, but certainly still a little on the younger end. And in their first Olympic experience, they struggled out of the gate, and maybe have it rolling a bit more now. But yeah, absolutely fun times.
All right, let's move to our medals for day number 10, Duane. I know you don't want to hear this and you don't want to talk about this, but there's more behind us than in front of us. So let's enjoy the days, and this is day number 10 according to you and I. Poutine medal for day number 10. It's about bobsled. What a great competition the two-man bobsled was. 4 heats, and at the end of heat 4, it all came down to centimeters, literally. And we had a dead heat. Well, a tie, sorry, not a dead heat because it was fun. But we had a tie with the two, Canada 1 and Germany. But Canada 3, surprising run in heat number 4, leaping forward. At one point, they were number 1, of course, but they stayed there for about 3 different other sliders, and they stayed in front of the other opponents, which was surprising. And they jumped 3 spots in the last run in heat number 4. It was surprising, and it's the football boys, as they are known, the Hamilton football boys, with Nick Poloniato and Jesse Lumsden, putting medals.
Yeah, they finished 7th is where they ended up today. And look, I mean, what I like about this story, both Kevin and I have a bit of a history with football. We're talking football like gridiron, throw the ball in the air. The football that don't use their feet very often, that football. We have a history in that game. Kevin played the game at a decent level, and I covered it with CIS, University of Football in Canada. It was my first sports writing experience. I was quite well known in that community for years, and I was quite well known in that community when Jesse Lumsden was at his absolute peak. And both of these guys were pretty accomplished football players at the Canadian University level. Polinato played at Bishop's University in Quebec, and Jesse Lumsden ended up retiring as the all-time leading rushing leader in Canadian University football history when he retired. I believe he still holds that record. And
I'll never be broken because now they pass the ball. But back then, Duane, I remember clearly games in the which was on CBC back then, Saturday afternoons, and I remember just a purple shirt, which was the color, which still is the color of McMaster, Jesse Lumsden being handed the ball, him running the whole damn field, not even being stopped or touched or seen on that field. And I have fond memories of watching Jesse Lumsden. It wasn't not necessarily easy at the pro level, where he was more touted as a special team player, but watching him run at the CIS level was quite impressive.
Yeah, well, he had some injury problems too, and I think this is an interesting story. He retired from football fairly early. He was kind of ahead of the game when it comes to the head injury stuff. He got banged up pretty good, and he decided, because he had discovered bobsled, had been exposed to it, and he decided that at a fairly young age, he's just 35 now, so he could technically still be playing in the CFL if everything went perfectly. Although that would be a little on the older end at this point. Decided to move into bobsled full time because I think he felt. Well, I know he felt, because he said it at the time, he felt that the injury risk was less. I mean, that sounds a little absurd because bobsled is a scary sport, and you can get some injury there.
It tells you how dangerous football is when someone tells you, yeah, it's safer for me to go in a tin can down a sheet of ice at 140 kilometers an hour than playing football.
Yeah, no, precisely. And you also can do it. He probably has another Olympics in him at 35, right? So that's going to allow him to continue an athletic pursuit longer. It's just an interesting story, and a good result for a guy that started in the sport late too. I mean, that's pretty common, and it's one of the things I like about bobsled is how you get these just pure athletes, big guys, usually big girls too, that just discover this sport in their 20s in some cases and chase the Olympic dream.
You say discover the sport. It's usually the sport that discovers them. Like in Jesse Lumsden's case, Samuel Giguère, which is another football player, former Tiger Cat as well, former Montreal Alouettes, another team as well. He's still a football player as well, too. He's the alternate in PyeongChang right now. But those athletes have a history of Bobsled Canada themselves looking at athletes and the total spectrum and looking at what they need and what's out there and approaching them saying, look, have you ever thought about bobsled? And maybe you actually have what we need. And then we see a lot of players, either former track and field, former football player, because that explosiveness that is needed off a start of the play in football, off the it's been so long, and I've been on the head a few times.
The line?
Exactly, off the line. I don't even remember. Off the passing of the ball there, Off the start of the play, that explosiveness is actually very useful to start the run and pushing the slide. So we have a lot of history with Bobsled Canada recruiting high-level football and track and field athletes, which Samuel Giguère and Jesse Lumsden, in this case, were recruited by Bobsled Canada.
Well, and as we said, we won't belabor this too much. It's just an interesting story in the sense that this is happening, and you'll see more of them like this. Now I think we're at the point now that because Jesse Lumsden was a pretty big name. His father's a Hall of Famer in the Canadian Football League for those that are outside of this. So this is a name that's known. And for him to give up on his dream of the CFL at a fairly early age was a significant story at the time. And I think that's sort of combined with the concussion issues that are plaguing that sport a little bit. You'll see more, I think, football players deciding to walk away after 2-3 years. And if there's another athletic pursuit that they can look at. And it's not just bobsled, because I think that these athletes, their body types and their skill sets lend them to skeleton and to luge as well if they want to go down that route. I think you'll see more of it and more interest in it. Obviously, there's only a few spots available to them to get to an Olympics, but nonetheless, it's an interesting story for sure. So that's why we went with poutine in this particular case.
All right, from poutine to wood medal, and I'll start with the wood medal, Duane, and bear with me for a second. This wood medal goes to choice of songs in the ice dancing last night. I was watching the short program of the ice dancing last night. I'm like, okay, one time's good. I'm like, all right, someone, like, I think it was the South Korean team or the Chinese. I think it was the Chinese team with like a remix of Despacito. There was a little remix, a little slower. Like, all right, one's fine. The next couple, song starts. Like, are you kidding me? It's the same song. They're dancing to the same song. Like, fine. Then another couple steps on, and Despacito starts again. Please.
Yeah, I'm going to read you. I have my notes in front of me, Kevin. I'm going to read you my wood medal. It says, wood, musical selection, dance. Everyone played the same damn song. So independently, we came up with the same thing.
And then I decided to open Twitter. And I was like, yeah, that's why Twitter exists. This is fun.
All right, since we had the same, yeah, it was. They all play because the theme, like at each Olympics, they have to. Their short program is like they pick a style, and the style was Spanish music, was what they called it. And yeah, so they picked the most popular song that had Spanish in it, and everyone played it.
It's like
it made the Canadian.
You have to think about it too. The choice selection, like the song selection was made what, 8-9 months ago. When was that? Exactly when that song came out. Oh, yeah, let's put that. Oh, please, someone help us.
There you go. Yeah, it meant even the commentators were joking a little bit about it on the broadcast. And yeah, for sure. I actually watched the entire dance program too. I was watching it with a friend who's into dance, so she wanted to watch it. So we watched it from start, and I'm talking like from like the 25th. Place all the way through, so like 4 hours of ice dance last night for Duane. Yep. Anyway, it was fine, but nonetheless, I heard that song about 8 times. Okay. Well, since that was, we both had the same wood medal, I'll just put an honorary mention, and that's I'm going to talk about. I don't like to bash referees, and I particularly don't like to bash female referees. Because I understand the initiative that they do in the female sports to make it an all-female crew, but I sometimes struggle with this. And we talk a lot about this when we covered the Women's World Cup in 2015, how the state of female officiating around the world, just because they don't have the opportunities, it's a chicken egg thing, right? They don't have the opportunities, so they're not as good. But then we're at the top level, and they're not as good, so the competition suffers. And I think we saw a bit of that in the 2 hockey semifinals. There were a couple really dangerous plays. Canada got away with it. Both Canada and the United States got away with some pretty maybe dirty, or at least unluckily.
Like nasty, chippy, bad intention play, let's put it this way, which maybe not dirty in the pure sense, but at least not necessarily fair either.
Yeah, it's and I don't know what the answer is, because I do understand the need to take the initiative to ensure that female officials have opportunities to compete at the top level. But when you're in an Olympic Games, you want to have very experienced referees out there. And, again, chicken and egg. You can't get the experience unless you are given the opportunity to get it. But at the same time, if you're not experienced, you're not going to officiate the game at the capacity that it needs to be officiated at that level. So I don't know what the answer is, Kevin, but it is something that I continue to struggle with to sort of understand, whether or not we should just have the best officials, regardless of genders, refereeing games, the female competitions, or whether we should have that sort of affirmative action, for lack of a better way to put it, out there to allow the opportunities. But certainly there were some mistakes made in those games, and there were some players that may have been injured because of it. So it is a bit of a difficult question to answer. That's my spontaneous wood medal, but Kevin and I did agree that the musical selection of the dance program was our wood medal yesterday.
Oh yeah, Despacito, and we're looking at you, Justin Bieber. You really deserve that wood medal for the entirety of your accomplishments. All right, let's move on to bronze medal for day 10. And Duane, my bronze medal is like a quote. that describes a moment, all right? Havard Lorentzen, a speed skater long track at the Oval at the Gangnam Mobile Center, won gold medal at the 500 meter earlier this morning, and I loved his quote. At the time where he skated, the number one ranked time at that point was the young Korean Cha, with an amazing, surprising start and great 500 meters. It's basically 1 lap and a quarter, so the start is very important, and Cha made a great time on that, on his laps. So Lorentzen from Norway gets going. The crowd is still like hyped of Cha's time. They're still, we're still, we're gonna win. We're gonna win a medal. There's only a few of them left. It's the party. It's loud. It's raucous. Lorentzen goes and shatters the time of Cha. And the entire crowd goes silent. It's dead quiet. You can hear a pin drop. And I love the comment of Lorentzen after the race. He's like, yeah, I didn't think I could beat his time when I started. But then I did. It was quite cool to silence the entire crowd. I really enjoyed it. I was like, yes, this guy is embracing the hate, is embracing the heel aspect. He's the villain. He's in their hometown, and he just beat the hometown boy, and he's proud of it. And I thought that was beautiful.
All right, fair enough. Well, that segues into my bronze medal, because my bronze medal is Cha Min-kyu's silver medal performance and the crowd's reaction to it. He was a bit out of the blue. We're talking a guy that was maybe thought to be top 10, but wasn't necessarily considered a medal contender in the 500, a very competitive field. He put down a time that was very impressive, and the crowd went insane. It was one of those surprise medals that really does jump out at you, and especially when it's a home. We haven't had a lot of the, like I like to call them, the shock bronzes. This is the silver,
the
obviously.
Bronze,
there haven't been
the surprise bronze used to
come, yeah. We haven't had a lot of those in this this Olympics, and this was kind of one that I think that sort of meets that criteria. A guy that wasn't necessarily on people's radar that jumped up and had the performance of his life to grab a medal, and that's something that's always fun to watch, and especially when it's at home. I remember in Rio there was the judo athlete, the female judo athlete that for Brazil that was kind of unexpected, that won the gold there, and the place went nuts. And it was one of my highlights of the entire games, just because she was from the slums of Rio, and it was a great story. I forget her name off the top because I didn't do the research for it before, but yeah, I remember that was why when we did we'll probably do this with this. We did our overall gold, silver, bronze, wood medals for the entire Olympics at the end of them, and she was in my overall medals at the end. So yeah, this is a good one. I like it when the host nation does stuff good that's unexpected, and this was certainly a case of that. So that's so I guess we like the 500 meters. We have mutual thoughts today. 500 meter. There wasn't a lot of competition yesterday, in fairness, but but here you go.
It's fun. The 500 meters is one of the event in speed skating that I really like because, first of all, short track is fun to watch because of the sheer chaos, but it's not long, right? It's right now, and we all understand who's the fastest on a short period. It's like, who's the fastest on 100 meters? We all understand that because it's distances that we can run because we don't have the endurance to run more. So we understand who's the fastest. And 500 meter short track, it's kind of that. It's like, look, who's the fastest at the start? Who's like, if we all put skate on and we started on, that's what we do, right? So I kind of like that aspect of the 500 meter. It's the fastest start, the fastest explosiveness. They just go all out. You don't have to manage your effort for a long time. Just go all out, get as fast as you can, and glide a bit and get to the line quick as possible. All right, let's move to our silver medal for day number 10. And my silver medal is to Team Norway, Duane, in the ski jump competition. It was the team competition today, and I have to say Robert Johansson alone and his mustache are a big part of that silver medal, but Team Norway's performance as well as a group. By the way, Robert Johansson, Mr. Endelbar mustache, and it looks quite amazing with the it kind of like a Daft Punk look, a gold goggles with a gold helmet, and imagine a beautiful red-haired mustache on top of that from Norway. Just amazing. But anyways, Robert Johansson, 2 bronze and 1 gold medal now with the team ski jump. And it was the first ever gold medal for Norway in the team ski jump. And that's kind of surprising because over the years, Norway is one of the biggest country in ski jump. One of the biggest tallies of medals is from Norway, but it's their first ever team ski jump medal. And great performance by Robert Johansson, who, if you are Norway, even though you're going to have great results in skiing, in speed skating, and in cross country, ski jump with 3 medals for Robert Johansson, I wouldn't be surprised if he is chosen as the closing ceremony flag bearer for Norway.
Well, and it's a tough choice in Norway's case if you're looking at medal winners, because they are continuing to dominate the Olympics in pretty much every discipline. And that's a great one. I know that you quite enjoy the ski jumping a little more than I do, but I certainly tuned in for that. And that mustache is spectacular.
It's glorious, all right, isn't it? It's glorious.
Yes, it's. I have quite the beard myself, so I'm appreciative of facial hair. All right, my silver medal. Okay, I bashed is a strong way to put it, but I criticized her a couple days ago, so I should probably mention when they've turned it around a little bit. I'm going to give the silver medal today to Rachel Homan for going 3 in a row, particularly having a dominating performance against the Japanese team last night. This is a lot of pressure. The amount of pressure that they have to feel is something that's enormous. They're expected to win gold going into the competition, to go out 0-3 and to be staring down that abyss. Had that team meeting, she's kind of just shut up and curled since then, right? There hasn't been any controversy. They're getting it done. They now at 3-3. When you look at how that sort of is bunched up, they do look like they're probably going to make the playoff round. And if they make that playoff round, if they get a couple more wins, I think they will, or at least get into a tiebreaker. They'll at least get into games where if they win, they move on, which is, I think, all they need to do at this point. When they were 0-3, they'll be happy with that. If they just make a tiebreaker, at least they'll have that opportunity to win and move. If they get into those with their experience at the World Championship and their experience playing at Scotties year after year, I think that maybe they can go back into that favorite status again. But I'm going to give her a silver medal for what was a great performance against Japan yesterday, and now looking a hell of a lot better than it did about 36 hours ago.
It's funny that you mentioned that too, because you talked about pressure for Rachel Homan. I've touched quickly on rivalries yesterday and how there's maybe a lack of. Well, in Canadian curling right now, in the women's side, there's quite a rivalry between Rachel Homan and Jennifer Jones. It's quite usually between the two of them, either at the Brier when it's not, the Scotties, when it's not in Olympic year, and at the Road to the Rings when it is. And let's face it, they're not the biggest fan of each other. They're never going to admit it publicly, but we can read between the lines and we can see how they act towards each other. And imagine Jennifer Jones is in PyeongChang because her husband is playing for Team Kevin Coe. So you do have this this feeling of Rachel Homan looking in the stands, and guess what? Jennifer Jones is there looking at you and thinking, I would have done better.
Well, yeah. Well, and Caitlin Laws won a gold medal, who is Jennifer Jones' third, right? So in the mixed events. So yeah, the rivalry continues, for sure. And look, digging the hole. The Canadian curling, they still both could win gold. That's the thing about the strength of those teams, but they made it interesting. So in some ways, it's I don't know. It's hard to say that it's better, because it isn't if you're purely partisan. But from an interest level, from a drama level, it's a lot more interesting than the last Olympics, where both Canadian teams went perfect. They were 22-0 Canadian curling at the last Olympics, and then they go 22-0 in the last Olympics, and then the mixed go and only lose the one game. So it had been many consecutive curling games in a row that Canada had won at the Olympics prior to the start of the team event this year. So a little more challenging going on. All right, let's move on, Kevin. Jump to your gold.
Yeah, and I have a feeling, you mentioned we were thinking alike today, and I kind of have a feeling we have the same gold medal for day number 10 of the Olympic Games. I have a feeling, Duane, we're both choosing those athletes in a tin can today, heat number 3 and 4. Bob's, at least for me, and we'll see if I'm correct for you. I'm not gonna talk for you, but for me it is Justin Cripps and Alex Kopak. You mentioned bobsled and how usually it's a sport that people come in too old, like at the second or third sport in your athletic career, if you want to call it that. Well, Justin Cripps has been doing bobsled for a long time. It was his love, and that's one of the difference too. He learned to love bobsled. He learned to love, to appreciate it, and to understand why, and to understand why he's fast, when he's fast, and there's been a lot of progress in Justin Cripps and Alex Kopak. gold medal for Canada, the first time in 20 years since Pierre Luders in 1988 in Nagano won the gold medal in the two-man bobsled. And Pierre Luders, which by now he's the coach of the Korea bobsleigh team, so there's that too. Canada's coaches are being exported in the bobsled world, in the curling world. There's a bunch of Canadian coaches everywhere, so a lot of people are picking Canadian brains for the benefits of other countries. Maybe we should bring back those ones for the benefit of Canada, but that's another topic for another discussion. But Justin Cripps and Alex Kopak, two-man bobsleigh gold medal, is my gold medal for day 10.
All right, well, actually, we do have a different pick this day.
Oh,
it's a worthwhile pick. Yeah. Well, there was a world record by a Canadian pair last night, so that's kind of hard to ignore too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Look, speaking to the bobsled first, though, obviously that was an exciting end to that. To finish with the dead heat, it's kind of, hilarious that it's, the last two gold medals Canada's won in bobsled have won the men's side because Kaylee Humphries obviously is upcoming on the female side, but on the men's side have been both dead heats. That's kind of a unique situation there. It's very Canadian almost in the cliche way. Oh, we've got to share the gold. Nonetheless, yeah. Everyone wins. But I thought that the end of that was, you could almost give a gold medal just for the reaction, the way the Germans ran onto the track and embraced the Canadians. There was no anger that they were sharing it. Like, they were all just happy that they both got that moment, and they were very equally happy for the Latvians. Like, that's kind of a nice thing about bobsled, is the way that they all just sort of support each other right there.
Well, you're not racing against each other. Sorry to interrupt, Duane, just because you're not racing each other, right? You're racing yourself. You're not trying to, yes, you're trying to be faster than the other guy, but by being faster than the other guy is by looking at your own run and correcting your own mistakes. So in a way, you're actually racing against yourself. And there is a certain camaraderie in sliding sports because of the actual nature of the sport, where they travel a lot of times together, share cost and room together, and are sharing same venues for 10 months out of the year. Well, I'm exaggerating here, but for a lot of times every weekend from city to city in the World Tour in Europe. So no, you do have that camaraderie that is very palpable when you're watching sliding sports.
For sure. Just to finish my thought there, when the Latvians got the bronze medal, and that was a big moment for them too. The German sled that was ahead of them, that fell behind them, the reaction wasn't to be angry. The reaction was first off to kind of look at each other and go, oh, well, we did all we could. And then they went over and hugged the Latvians. It was kind of a nice moment there as well. So fun all around. All right, my gold, as I said a moment ago, is the skate of Scott Moir and Tessa Virtue in the short program, which was a world record for points in terms of a short program. Now, figure skating world records are a bit weird because they keep changing the scoring. So, whatever. But,
but
nonetheless,
this version of the world record, right? It's this iteration of the system's world record.
Yes, but nonetheless, it is the highest point total that they've ever had. They are known in the skating world for having the best short program in the dance, whereas the French couple, which had the unfortunate costume malfunction there, which we won't belabor too much, but you can't imagine being at the highest stage and having that happen to you.
I'm just proud that we didn't choose it as any of our medals. I'm just proud of you and I. We've matured. We've gone to another level.
Although I found it on the commentary last night when they were they went out of their way. I don't know whether they said it in other broadcasts, but they were quite nice not to point out what everyone saw. But at any rate, moving on.
They should have got the memo to the cameraman though, because he was the one dictating what people at home saw.
Yes, precisely. Okay, so Scott and Tessa though, it was a great skate. As I've said many times before, if you go way back to Sochi, we fully admit it that this is not my MO is not skating. I pick up on it a little bit. I can appreciate the artistry of it. I can appreciate the athleticism of it. But it's not my thing that I watch day in, day out. But it was obvious even to a layman's eyes like me how passionate and how much better that skate was, the Canadian skate, than all but the French skate, really. And maybe the American, the third place Americans are pretty decent as well. The brother-sister pair. It's a little weird brother and sister dance together. I don't know about that, but at any rate.
Yeah. I was a bit, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but I was a bit there's a bit too much passion in there. I don't know.
Well, like I said, I was watching with someone who's in the dance community. They dance like, in not figure skating dancing, but they dance, like they're Lindy Hop is what they're
Ballroom,
in.
yeah,
Swing,
ballroom or something. Yeah.
swing dance, yeah. And I was talking about that. I said, well, how would they have to choreograph this? Would they? And she said, yeah, they probably would. And you could tell this. They choreographed it where it was more playful than it was sensual. Whereas you look at Scott and Tessa, like it's a pretty sensual dance. You need to shower after it, right? Like that's part of it. That sex appeal is part of what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's an attractive couple. That's not beat around the bush here, right? So they play up.
It's a on and off couple in real life too. I don't know which point they are right now, but according to what I saw on the ice last night, I think it's more on than off at this point. But who are we to know?
Yeah, who knows about that? There's a whole bunch of BuzzFeed articles if you're into that sort of thing to talk about that. But no, look, it was a great skate. It's the bottom line. They still have work to do. The French couple is known for their long program more. I think it's like a 2 or 3 point lead. So there's an adage in figure skating is you can't win the competition in the short program, but you can lose it. Certainly, no one lost it last night in terms of the contenders. It's going to come down to the skate tonight. But regardless, I think it's pretty clear that Scott and Tessa will medal, and if they do medal, they will become the first people in figure skating history in the Olympics to have 5 medals. So that they will break an all-time record, and that's a remarkable accomplishment. And they basically assured themselves, other than them falling down, which rarely happens in dance, they're all but guaranteed a medal tonight, and that will, as I said, make them the all-time leading medal. If they get their 3rd gold medal, that would be. There wouldn't even many be debates. They'd be the most decorated figure skating team of all time. Now, look, caveat to that, of course, is that the team event's new, and so they had that opportunity. So there will probably be other skaters in the future that will equal that 5 gold or 5 medal tally. But nonetheless, it's a remarkable career, and the pressure that they've skated under from throughout their whole career. If you think about it, you go every Olympics has been unique. The first ones, it's Vancouver, right? And they're young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they blasted the competition, and Canada's never won a medal in dance at that point, a gold medal in dance at that point. They go out and just are the darlings of the game for a lot of people. They are the face of the Vancouver Games for a certain, like there's Sidney Crosby's goal and Scott and Tessa's dance are the two, I think, most iconic moments from the Vancouver game for most Canadians. Depending on your perspective, either you kind of like sports like hockey, or you kind of like sports like figure skating. Depending on your perspective, either one of those two is going to be your memory from Vancouver. And that's amazing pressure there. Then you go into your second Olympics, you're the defending champion, and that has its own unique sort of pressures to it. They finished second in those Olympics, but that's still a medal, and it's worthwhile. They retire for a couple of years, and then they decide to come back, and they come now, and they get to carry the flag in. So they get that pressure for the flag. So I think all of that's remarkable, and we might talk about them again tonight. Who knows? But nonetheless, I wanted to make sure that we had them in and had a conversation about them quickly before in case they do fall tonight, and then we can. We still had that world record, great skate for them. They have the gold medal in the team event. There's no scenario in which Scott and Tessa aren't remembered as one of the greatest Canadian Olympic Winter Olympians of all time, regardless of what happens tonight. But they could definitely tap it off with a gold medal, and that will solidify them amongst greatest Olympians period in this country, or in the greatest decorated Olympians in figure skating history. And that's a remarkable accomplishment for a country that struggled to get medals at all for a long, long time.
Speaking of gold medals and countries, let's take a look at the medal standings according to gold medals, like 99% of the world uses to make a medal standing. So, of course, you were talking about it. Norway is continuing its domination. It's not clearly a domination across the board, but 11 gold medals, number 1 for Norway, 9 silver, 8 bronze for a whopping 28 medals for Norway. Germany, 10 gold medals in number 2. Canada now with 6 gold medal in number 3, third position. Ugh, it's late. Yeah, I live in PyeongChang time. It's not easy, Duane. I'm telling you, and you know all about it. Netherlands 4th with 6 gold medals. Duane, Canada's the same number of gold medals as the Netherlands, but 5 more medal overall. Yeah, it's lucky that there's not more skating events in speed skating, because Netherlands would have a lot more medals, right?
No doubt about that.
United States, number 5 with 5 medal. Sweden, 6 with 4 gold medals. Austria, 7th with 4 gold medals. France tied with Austria with 4 gold medals as well. Korea ninth with 3 gold medals, and Japan number 10 again with 2 gold medals. Duane, that about wraps it up for day number 10. We'll be back tomorrow for another edition of 5 Rings Daily. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at 5 Rings Podcast, Duane at 24th Minute, and myself at Kev Laramee, live every day 10 a.m. during the PyeongChang 2018 Winter Games at youtube.com/sports podcasting network, and your support is greatly appreciated. Patreon.com/sports podcasting network. Without your help, the production of this show would not be possible. The best way to congratulate, to help us, to support us, to motivate us, and to, well, you guys are our bosses, so to have a say, put your money where you want it, well, which is a good place. Not there. Don't put it there. Just put it in exactly right there. Patreon.com/sports podcast network. And as always, you can listen to this show as a podcast at sportspodcastnetwork.com and anywhere you get your podcast. Duane and I will hit the hay, which means it's the old English to say we'll go to bed, and I definitely need it, Duane. And I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to wish you a great Olympics.
All right.